Like objects in the real world, Protobite objects have names and physical properties. These are things such as width, height, and opacity. Let's use these rectangles here to explore these. So if we come over and select the red rectangle, and we can look over here on the right. So this is the properties panel. So you can see that this rectangle has a number of properties. Things such as position, so X and Y, and its size, width and height. But we don't add formulas here. The properties panel is the place that you set an object's initial properties. To manipulate the properties when the prototype runs, we need to look at responses. So let's add some basic interactions so we can have a look at where we add our formulas. So making sure that you've still got the red rectangle selected, come over to the triggers panel and add a tap trigger. And to this, add a move response. And if we come over to the move responses properties panel, you can see we've got these value fields. So we've got X and Y. If I tap into these, you can see that there's this FX icon to the right hand side. This is the formula button. Wherever you see this icon, you can add a formula to represent the value dynamically. Okay, so let's see a practical example of using formulas. Let's say we want to move the red rectangle to the same X position as the blue rectangle. So without formulas, we would just check the blue rectangle's X value and add the same value into the move response for the red rectangle. So let's just go through the motions and do this. So I would come over to the blue rectangle. I'd see its X position is 138. I would come over to my move response and I would just type 138 into the X field here. And if we come over to the preview window and I tap the red rectangle, you can see that it's moved to the same position as the blue rectangle. Okay, but what if I move the blue rectangle somewhere else? So let's just move it over here. If I now come back to preview and tap the red rectangle, you can see it still goes to the same position that we told it to. And this is because there's no link between the two rectangles. The value we've added is static, not dynamic. Okay, let's make the value dynamic using a formula instead. So I'm going to come back to my move response. I'm going to tap back into the X field and I'm going to hit the FX button to open the formula window. And I'm going to remove this static value. And instead, I'm going to hit the plus button here. And I'm going to choose from the list the blue rectangle. After I've got the reference to the layer, I'm going to type a full stop. Typing a full stop is going to open the properties dropdown. So these are all the properties that we have access to within our formulas. So in this instance, I'm just going to choose the X property. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to come back to preview. I'm going to give it a test. So again, I'm going to tap the red rectangle and you can see it moves to the same X position as the blue rectangle. Just to prove it's dynamic, let's move the blue rectangle to a different location and give it another test. So you can see that wherever I move the blue rectangle, when I tap the red rectangle, it's going to move to its X position. Okay, let's hook up the Y position next in the same way. Actually, maybe give it a go yourself first, but if you get stuck, we can continue to follow along. Okay, I hope you found that easy to do. If not, then you can follow along with me now. So I'm going to come back to my move response. I'm going to tap into the Y field this time, tap the FX button to open the formula window, and I'm going to get my reference to my blue rectangle, type a full stop, and this time I'm going to choose the Y position. I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to come to my preview window and I'm going to tap my red rectangle. And now you can see that it moves exactly to the same position as the blue rectangle. Just to prove it's dynamic, let's move the blue rectangle somewhere else, tap again, and you can see that it exists in the same location. It's moved to the blue rectangle's location. So as you can see, there is now an intrinsic link between the two objects. We have connected them together using formulas and have now made the value dynamic.